Mandy from Creative Matters, and you're listening to Creative Matters on Air, where I have conversations with new and established artists from around New Zealand. I love to listen to artists' stories and learn about their creative process, and maybe you do too, which is why I've made this podcast, to inspire, inform and educate. I hope you can take away something positive and encouraging from each of these amazing stories to help you on your own creative journey. Hi, and welcome to Creative Matters episode 19. Thanks so much for listening. Today I'm talking to Mandy Flood. Mandy is a contemporary jeweller from Westmere in Auckland, New Zealand. The aesthetics of decay and obsolescence, along with the beauty of impermanence, forms the impetus for Mandy's work. She takes the traditional process of enamelling and seeks to expand the preconceptions of a finished surface. It is the inclination of time found on the commonplace urban object that Mandy endeavours to express through both manipulation of metal and the indeterminate nature of enamel. The alteration of the surface is intended to draw attention to the beauty found in decline. Through wear and tear, each piece will expose itself wholly to the wearer. This unpredictability of process and material is what Mandy finds intriguing. You can see her work on her blog, which is on our website creativematters.co.nz, and you can check out her beautiful jewellery on her 2 Instagram pages, which I've linked to on her blog. Welcome to Creative Matters on Air, Mandy.
Thank you very much, Mandy. Lovely to be here.
It's lovely to have you, and it's cool that we're both called Mandy.
Absolutely.
Oh my God.
Stop.
2 Mandys. That sounds a bit scary.
Thanks.
Yeah, could be bad. All right, so it's lovely to have you. We've known each other for quite some time in a way that we have a mutual friend, and we were both teachers. And I think we met probably...
Well, I came here in 98 and I knew the mutual friend then.
Yeah, so more than 20 years ago we met. Yeah, and we don't see a lot of each other, but we cross paths now and then very happily. So, it's lovely to have you here, and I'm so excited to hear your story. I know, I've been following you and your practice and your amazing jewellery you make, but I'm really looking forward to hearing all of the backstory, Mandy.
That's exciting and nerve-wracking as well. So
no, it's great.
I shall try and give you a few clues.
I'm sure you will. So let's go all the way back to the beginning. Can you tell us where you were born and what kind of childhood you had? Okay, right back then.
I was actually brought up in Birmingham in the centre of England. I was... I am a daughter of a single parent mother who brought me up alongside with her father, my granddad. And to be honest, it was really my granddad who's probably had a strong influence on who I am in many ways. He was very much of a tutor, a bit of a tinker, I think probably would be the English terminology. And I would spend a lot of time out in the garage with him, sorting out the car, doing the oil changes. The garage was a place of just Aladdin's cave, loved it to death. He was also a plasterer, and I went and did a few jobs with him. So I suppose you could say I was a bit of a tomboy. And quite independent probably, because Mum worked full time. I was one of those things that you call a latch key kid. So I had the key around my neck. Perhaps it's the first piece of jewellery I ever wore.
Yeah, it might have inspired you.
Absolutely. And came home. And probably always been a bit of a problem solver in many ways. I like to see how things work and get to the bottom of it, which got me into a bit of trouble when you start taking apart the family clock. That didn't go down too well with my granddad. And went to the local primary school. Currently I was quite clever, but I wasn't allowed to sit the 11 plus, which was something that we had in the UK. So I had to go to the local comprehensive, which was an all-girls school, 1,600. Loved it in many ways, but I wanted to go down a more practical avenue, which really wasn't encouraged.
Even at that time?
Even at that time, which we won't actually say how many years ago that was. And so it took really until I went to, I decided I was going to go stay on at the sixth form. So that's year 12, 13 here, which wasn't what anyone did in our family. So I pushed for that one, a bit contrary. And that was when the art started. I did A-level art, loved it. And then I wanted to carry on and wanted to be a fashion designer. And that meant going to do art foundation year, which again was not encouraged. It was definitely not what my mum wanted to do. My granddad died when I was just before I was 18.
Oh, wow. And which would have been big for you, I guess.
Yeah, it was. Yeah. It was. And it kind of pushed me, if anything, to be even more contrary, which again was not a good compliment when you was called a contrary child or a contrary girl, even worse.
Yeah.
So I got accepted to Birmingham Polytechnic for an art foundation year. And that was where I really wanted to do the fashion design. And I didn't get into my first choice, which was St Martin's College. And then I decided, well, forget it. Let's see what I'm going to do. I'll take a year out, which was a big year of working, doing all kinds of everything, working in a shoe shop, working in British Home Stores. And then I actually did some voluntary work in a special school and started working with these really crazy individual kids. I got blue paint thrown over me and I thought, yes, that's what I want to do.
Oh, my God. Wow.
Absolutely. And I then started to look into going away from home. It was time to move away from home. It was getting quite hard. Me and my mum were definitely headbutting each other. And so I started to look at Liverpool, and there's something called Craft Design Technology, which was a 4-year degree course, and it was very male orientated. In fact, I was almost courted to go there because I was the only female. So in the 4 years, there was a female finishing in her 4th year, and I was the female coming in my first year.
Really?
So
well, that's incredible. Wow. Why? I wonder why that was. Just those days.
Just because woodwork, metalwork, really. And I mean, I went through an all-girls school, and we had none of those facilities. It was never even talked about. So I ended up
different, wasn't it, in those days?
Hugely.
In those days,
well, it's not that quite not the dark ages, but so I ended up going to Liverpool for 4 years degree. And when you're doing a teaching degree, you do a practicum for every year as well. So it's a full on professional degree. Unlike my lovely friends, who are my deepest friends, who did these blooming psychology degrees, and I was the guinea pig for every blooming experiment they wanted to do. Best friends, love them.
So it was a art and design teaching degree.
Yeah, full on degree, and finished in 89. And I got snapped up pretty quickly for a job on the Woodchurch estate in Birkenhead, outside of Liverpool, and it was rough and tough. But I actually ended up being in an art department. Beautiful guy called Jeff Samuels looked after me. We set up a 3D area there, and that was I started that off, and it was great. And a quick aside, but in the middle of COVID, as we've all found different people again, I actually got in contact with one of my first students, who's now 40 odd.
Really?
And we had the best laugh over Instagram and conversations, and the things that accordingly I did, that I was like this crazy teacher that was, more of a mate, which is scary.
But good though.
But yeah, she was an 18-year-old.
Yeah, and you would have been in your 20s.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
Yeah. So it was, it was great. And then I met this strange bloody southerner, really. And we started to talk about doing an OE, which for somebody in the UK is not what you do. I was just about being going to be given the head of art there. I was also a pastoral department head. So I had my own year group and stuff like that. And it was great. And
you've done well. You're still young.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I then said, no, I'm going to go overseas for 9 months.
And that was the southerner Alec?
It was.
The guy that you eventually married?
Yeah, absolutely. I think if you travel with somebody for 9 months, it's one way or another, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
we had a great time in New Zealand. But we had to go back home and went back into Liverpool, and I got a job working with students that were classed as disaffected, which was a European funding initiative. So kids that were excluded, and that was in Kirby, which was intense. And then another EEC funding thing came through for working as a counsellor in a school which was over in Newton and Willows. I love both of those things, and they were quite good for me, not to work as a creative per se, but to work in different ways. I think part of the reason I went into education was because of kids who have needs, and we've all got needs. And I identified with those kinds of individuals. It was exciting. All the way, though, we were still talking about how great the time had been in New Zealand, and a bit of an itch needed to be scratched. So we decided to upset everybody in our families and move 12,000 miles away.
And what year was that?
That I came over here in 98. In fact, we got married in 97. We told everybody at the wedding we were leaving. That was a good one.
Wow.
No one could argue. And then Alec followed me 6 months later because of selling the house. And I came to school on the shore. Quite interesting, because I have to say this quickly, but Narrow Neck was a place that I had no idea what it was about. And I've literally arrived something like the 26th of January, started teaching probably a couple of days after that, and found this amazing view from where the school was. And I thought I'd literally landed and come to heaven.
Yeah.
So it was an intense, good 6 months working as design technology teacher.
And that was Belmont Intermediate.
Yeah, that was at the intermediate there.
Yeah.
Made great friends. I suppose you have to when you're on your own. And I realised that there was quite an uphill battle with design education, but stuck with it for a few years. And then first child came along, and so we made the decision to probably give up teaching, because we have no support network directly. Lots of great friends.
It's very hard to do though, isn't it? Full time with kids.
Yeah. And also at that point I was 36. So I felt like it was a time to, if you're going to do this job, i.e. being a mother, I want to do it properly. I did a little bit of relieving at the local high school where we live. And then number 2 child, so that's sort of 2 years, 8 months. And then Nadia was 6 months old, and I decided it would be quite a good idea that I could actually do an after-school program, because, you can when you've got a 6-month-old baby, can't you? Because you're indestructible. Yeah, that didn't work too far. And the edge to retrain was still there, or work in a different way. Coming from Birmingham, jewellery had always been perhaps in the lifeblood of me. Birmingham's got a brilliant training facility there, but different story. And so it took me to, Lara was 5, and it was almost like, she's at full-time education. So is Nadia. Oh, guess what? I can do a full-time degree now. And I did. I don't know how. It was crazy.
Did you? That's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
and what were you studying then?
That was the jewellery. So
the jewellery study.
Yeah, I went to Unitec.
Yeah.
And it is a degree in contemporary craft with jewellery as a major.
What a great degree.
Great degree that's not there anymore.
Isn't that sad? And we were talking about that earlier, how, a lot of those creative institutes in Auckland anyway.
New Zealand. Yeah, New Zealand.
New Zealand, yeah.
Unitec has got makers, New Zealand makers, worldwide renowned makers, Octavia Cook, Jane Dodd. Lots of people went through Unitec. Brilliant teachers, Pauline Byrne, Marie Earle. Really, really vital to so many people's growth.
Yeah.
Um,
And it's so sad it hasn't been valued and held on to. I just can't understand.
No, it's...
And there must be. You'd think there would be even more of a demand for it, because I feel like creativity is becoming more and more valued in society. So why are the institutions not keeping up?
Absolutely. And the big thing about that one is the facilities and the equipment has been pulled together over so many years, and they've just gone. And that sort of stuff, even if you reopened it, you could never get that sort of stuff back. That intellectual property is really just disappearing.
And so when you went back to university, did you have that plan that you were going to become a full-time jeweller?
To be honest, initially my idea was I'm going to learn to set a diamond. Don't ask me why. Didn't even really value diamonds, but that's what jewellery did. The contemporary jewellery at Unitec was about thinking. It's about looking outside those parallel lines, and that to me was absolutely enlightening. Again, it just set up a passion. The facilities were there, so you could actually throw yourself into something. And by the second year, I was really starting this enamel journey. I went in, as I say, to set a diamond, not realising quite how intense that is. And it's basically somebody else does it anyway. But the preciseness, the idea was going to teach me patience. I realised I am never going to be that wonderful, clean silversmith person. In fact, one of my lecturers actually said, you're not doing a good job at that one. So I started exploring the enamelling, which initially enamelling is such an ancient skill, and that is a very precise skill.
Can you actually talk about that process? I really don't know how that works.
How to enamel? Yeah. It's really grains of glass that is fired at around 700 to 800 degrees to produce a very smooth, shiny surface. If you look in historical paintings or pictures, and you can actually see pieces of enamel as jewellery, not for the wealthy, but it's to look wealthy. It's Egyptian, it's...
And is it on metal?
Yep, it's on copper. It works really well. Silver is a little bit more temperamental, but it gives a great finish. The Japanese are absolute masters of it. There's cloisonne, there's plaque de jour, there's all kinds of different things. But it's clean, it's tidy, it's precise. There's a wonderful jeweller, Jasmine Watson, who is, she's gone over to Japan, and she's got an award as a foreigner doing amazing stuff. Her work is everything mine isn't. So I started doing this, and Alan Preston, who is a local and
Middleway jeweller,
and a world known jeweller, he had done enamelling and gave us a little bit of a talk on it and shown his earlier work. And I started to explore, because as much as it is tight, perhaps it comes back to my contrariness, I decided I was going to try and do something else with that material. So the cleanness, the using distilled water and all this thing, I just no, I don't know why I do this. I'm just mixing it around. And I started exploring to find about liquid enamel. So my enamel is consistency of a single cream, and it is painted. It's very painterly. And I started to explore the wabi-sabi nature of things, the letting it be, which... when you look back on yourself, you realise I had never really done that as much as I wanted to. There's constraints. And you paint it onto the copper and you put it into the kiln, and it's letting the fire do the job. And you bring it out, and every time it's a new experience. And it's
a little bit like abstract
absolutely
painting in a way. Yeah. And you're not quite sure what to expect.
No.
Yeah.
And if I was following the proper enamel line, I'll be writing down the temperature it went in, how long it was there for, the ambient air conditions, all that kind of stuff. But no,
That wasn't going to be your thing.
No. So it's great when you're doing that, but probably in a couple now, people say, well, I really like that one. Can you make me the same? So the simple answer is no.
But that's what sort of adds value to your work, because each piece is so individual, I guess.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, if you made it into a huge canvas, you could charge an awful lot of money for it because it is as unique as any Rothko.
That's right. Yeah.
That's contentious to say that out loud, isn't it?
Oh, I wonder if you'd ever do that kind of thing.
I'm not too sure. It comes down to size of kiln. It comes down to everything. There is an intimacy with jewellery that sometimes is good and sometimes is bad. You know, sometimes you have to look away from the bench rather than being really full on.
Why is that, do you think? What's that intimacy about?
You're working in a very tight triangle almost, if you can imagine your eye in the bench, and you can become drawn into it too much. And also, not obviously, but you are working with something that is going to be worn. And the one thing about the course at Unitec was that you do the whole, you explore the wholeness of jewellery. You know, contemporary jewellery is quite different from, I don't know, dare I say, a Michael Hill engagement ring.
More mainstream jewellery.
Yeah.
And is it, I mean, we'll go back to talking about your university and what else you did there, but is jewellery, like contemporary jewellery, is it actually bought by some people? We're probably going off topic slightly, but is it seen also as like a display piece, or is it always made to be worn, like you said, or do some people buy things not intending to wear them? Yeah,
I think it's an individual approach. And yes, there are people who will buy something and they will just have it and enjoy it. There are collectors, and collectors are very individual people, and they collect for their very own reasons. But the joy is wearing. Often. Some people can get too precious about not wearing something. My work has all of that involved in it, but options are that it will actually wear with wear. You know, bits will flake, bits will crack. And that was the angle I was going down, in the respect of we sometimes hold on to things and are too scared to enjoy them because of that preciousness. But when you do wear it and everything becomes part of you. When you have a crack or bits fall off, don't try and actually mend it, enjoy it, because that was an experience that came through that piece of jewellery, you know, and you remember it. Well, you look at the cracks, you look at the chips, and that is that whole wabi-sabiness. And we do have there is a easy throwawayness in life, isn't there? We can get a chip in something and we won't keep it. I have a few chip cups, so I have a few cups that have no handles. I can't quite throw them away. Part of it is because I don't actually agree with throwing them into landfill anyway. I may as well have my own private landfill at home.
Lucky Alec.
Yeah, with a few memories in every piece.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, I love that approach.
Yeah, so that's the way.
Oh, there's lots of questions I could ask about that, but let's just go back to Unitec. So you looked at enamel. Were there other materials you were exploring?
That became a rabbit hole, to be perfectly honest, and there is so much of it and there is only that much time, because as much as you're doing your practice, you're also, as I say, there's the wholeness of doing a 3-year degree. You know, there's the validation of, you know, writing a dissertation and all that sort of thing. So,
and were you learning about how to bend metals and all those other things?
Initially, that first year was quite structured. Second and third year, as I say, it's because it has to go through NZQA. There has to be everything else. You know, there was a paper about how to market yourself and all that kind of stuff. So, and of course, there was 2 children, and they had their after school things that you would, you know, I'll be the one leaving at 3:00 to go and pick up the kids. But the great thing about Unitec was you could come in at any time. So you'd go in, sort out your kids, do whatever you had to do, and then I would go in to back around about, you know, maybe 9:00, 8:00 at night, work for a couple of hours.
Oh, wow.
Especially in that final year, because the intensity of the work becomes so much part of you, or it did for me. And I think when I throw myself into something, I am 100%. And that's probably why I took time out when I was bringing up the children. I mean, me and Alec, obviously. But, I'm the one that said, because Alec, and that's the reason, let's put it down blatantly here, the reason I'm doing this job is because Alec is working and has been working for 20 odd years doing a job that I would probably kill myself to do, which is, figures, accountancy. But he's worked very hard to give me the opportunity to do what I do. And there's no other way, that is it. Because I think if I had to make a living from this particular work, I would be doing a completely different style of making.
Yeah, and isn't it? It's just a gift that he's given you to be able to actually explore what really lights your fire.
Yeah,
instead of thinking about the money. Yeah, and unfortunately, a lot of artists have to be realistic like that, don't they?
Absolutely, and I wouldn't say daily. I say thank you, but
when he's being well behaved. Yeah. So. Through Unitech, you've had a show at the end, I guess. So
I say fortunate, but at the end of the day, I worked bloody hard. And quite simply, I got the Fingers Graduate Award.
Wow.
And Fingers being an iconic gallery in New Zealand, Auckland, that meant there were 4 graduates from the different institutions that were there that would be brought into the gallery, given a show, and then really the work stays there. Fingers is an amazing institution that once you're there, they really support you.
And that's, as you said, it's an iconic jewellery gallery, would you call it?
Definitely a gallery.
And retail.
Yeah.
And it's, it's been going for 50 years.
Yeah.
It was established by a group of people and most of them are still involved.
They're actually all working. So they're all, I think Michael Cooper is just turned 70. Alan Preston is 80 plus. Ruth Baird is 80. And Roy Mason keeps his number very close to his chest, that man. And they work there and they support the New Zealand jewellery community in its widest side,
which is so amazing.
It is amazing,
and it's an incredible place, isn't it? It's just opposite Auckland Art Gallery in town, and it's all contemporary jewellery, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think the good thing is when you say contemporary jewellery, that remit is wide. I work with enamel and concrete now a bit, but there is gold, there is silver, there is plastic, there is glass, there is fabric. It is the widest choice of materials. We don't have so many graduate makers now because there aren't graduates as such, but it is literally from people who are starting their first forays into contemporary jewellery to people like Warwick Freeman and Carl Fritsch and Lisa Walker. We've got names that are represented throughout the world.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
And, so sort of forward thinking of Fingers to actually, sponsor young graduates and then, you've been involved ever since.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to get myself a 1 day a week there. It is a collective. So we've got 4 of us now who are working there as shop girls, but we're a bit more like shop women. But as I say, there's a lot of makers that have worked there. It is a selling in many ways. So you do deal with retail and all its warts and all. But it's great to have 1 day a week. For me, it's very good to actually leave the studio to actually work there.
Yeah, and talk to people. And obviously they have an annual show, which is probably a good kind of thing to aim for every year. But anyway, let's go back. So we're kind of leaping forward here. If we go back to Unitech, what happened afterwards? I mean, how did you feel coming out? I mean, you had that contract with Fingers, so that would have been encouraging, I guess.
Yeah, that is actually the big thing, because once you have that intensity of any creative course, it's keeping that momentum and having a show. So I finished. I have to put this one. So I finished the December, and then the show was going to be the following October, and that was really good to keep you going because it's very easy to suddenly go flat.
Yeah. And what year was that, Mandy?
So the 2013 was the show.
Yeah.
Alongside that as well, knowing that Unitec was going through some huge changes, three of us started to set up something called Faux Studios in Point Chev. Me, Dorothy Delatour, and Marie Earle. Marie Earle being one of the lecturers there.
Mm-hmm.
It was a great space. It has, because it's still working really well, the idea to bring creatives together and still having your own workshop space and bench space. So I put a lot of energies into that for quite some time.
And that's where you went to work, and that was your studio space.
That was my studio space, yeah. And alongside that, though, it was running classes. I set up a wax carving class, which we actually did in conjunction with Studio One, which was really good as well. To get Studio One to know faux studios in whatever, because it's a community and it's something. And it was very much on the back of Workshop 6, which has been going for something like 24 years, maybe longer. So it was great. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed the teaching. I was getting back to teaching again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed setting up something, and it just came as a time to move away, and that sort of time was when I was looking at a program called Handshake, and Handshake has been established by a maker called Peter Deckers, who was a lecturer down in Whitireia in Wellington, but that has also closed, which was last year. 2 years ago. Forget with COVID. And I got, probably a good one to say, I've put in my application for Handshake 3. I didn't get that, which I think is really important, which is something that I've skipped along there. A bit like when I said I didn't get into do the fashion. Often things don't always go as you think they should. I think that's, and should being that very entitled word.
Yeah.
And so when they don't, you have to either cry or pick yourself up and say, right, let's try again. And so I did. I applied again, and I actually asked a really good friend of mine, because she'd got into the one that I had applied for and didn't get into, how did you do it? And no shame in that. It was really, it's good for you to actually, and she was happy to show me, and there was no contention. So that was good. And so I got into that one, and that program is something that's a mentorship program. So Peter has worked with Creative New Zealand, and he's he's Dutch by origin. He's got lots of good links throughout the world, and he's worked tirelessly, honestly, both being an educator and for jewellery throughout New Zealand. He has all these links, and so there's some rock star names that I won't go through that. And the idea is that you have this mentorship program, and you put forward the couple of people that you would probably like to be your mentor. And it's quite weird. I ended up with this guy called Volker Atrops. Never heard of him. I had no idea.
Great name.
And I was paired with him, and it was hilarious. But Volker is so cool. He's in Germany. It took us a while to actually get that rift going well because of the technology and 24 hours difference. My morning, his night time.
Oh, so he's actually in Germany.
Yeah.
He was one of the mentors from that project.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah, he has quite a reputation, but we work really well, and I think it kind of went back to the years of me working with boys. You shoot from the hip. It's quite good. Quite like that.
It can be good. It's uncomplicated.
So
just back to the Handshake Project, is that what is the actual intention of that project? Just to match people up into mentorships?
It's a professional development. it's a 2-year program. It's a 2-year commitment to having a conversation, having a interrogation sometimes with people. You have shows, you have work to do. You learn how to put a show together. You learn to work with curators. You learn to work with other people, because there's probably about 10 others on the actual handshake. It really is that next step. It is that post-grad.
So it's once you have your practice established.
Yeah, I mean, the actual criteria is quite broad. So the criteria is broad, so it has different people at different levels. And it's what that person's going to get from it, because it's time investment. For me, it was really, really good. I didn't go into it with a known outcome. I think some people do, or think they do. So I was very much open to anything that was thrown in my general direction. And the concrete that I'm working with now actually came from a conversation between Volker and I, and images and stuff like that. And I sent him some images of Birmingham Spaghetti Junction, which, it's very much in my memories. And he sent me back some more pictures of concrete around his area, and he goes, "I'm looking at things differently now because of you." And I was like,
right.
Well, so, but he's, and we still follow each other, and we still talk.
It must be nice for him to see where you've taken.
I think so. I mean, he's got bigger fish to fry than me, definitely. But we little things. Things feed into your practice that aren't always what you expect to feed into them. So it's just quite interesting when you, especially with Facebook or Instagram, you put something up and then you get a comment. And then because also English isn't his first language, and when it's translated, it sounds quite different sometimes. And then you get a different play on it as well. So that's.
And was he supporting you with looking at different materials and that kind of thing, or just general technology or sort of technical stuff around your jewellery?
I think initially it was a bit hard for him to know exactly what was going on, because there's no rule book. So it really was a kind of push and shove to find what went on. And he did talk about, gold. Why don't you just melt some gold? And I'm like, do you know how expensive gold is? That preciousness. So it's never direct, but yes, there was an experiment idea. There was a thought of the concrete. How do you wear concrete? Do you wear concrete? Why would you want to wear concrete? And for me, the concrete has become something that talks about the environment. The clean, green New Zealand, where we actually produce quite a lot of concrete.
Which is really bad for the environment, isn't it?
Yeah, it's terrible.
Yeah.
But then again, there's not really a lot that is very good for the environment, the way we live in the 21st century.
Yeah.
So, is jewellery good for the environment? No.
Well, hopefully, if it's been passed on to generation, it's not, like you say, filling landfill.
No, and it's also a conversation about all kinds of things, and you don't have to have a conversation in a very direct manner. Sometimes you can have it in a quieter manner. So that's it. Yeah. So that finished 2017. I can't, as you say, who knows about dates. And that was great. That really started pushing me forward, because you kind of hit your roller coasters, your ups and downs. And the last thing, because I do believe in professional development, the last thing I've just come out of was, it started in the February of 2020, and that was a masterclass with Iris Eschenberg. And we've just done another masterclass Zoom meeting probably 5 weeks ago now, and 10 people came together, different people, different backgrounds, jewellers, makers, and we were having these Zoom conversations. She's in Michigan, and they were quite intense, 4 hours on a Zoom meeting.
Wow.
And the sad thing about that is we all came out of it going, we all want to be close. We want to be in a room together, because you open up so much.
Yeah.
And I think the one thing that comes out from makers, jewellers particularly, is a bit of yourself. In every piece of work there is a bit of yourself.
Definitely.
And as soon as you throw it out there or put it out there onto display, because I've got some orphans at home that sit at home, but as soon as you put it out there, you're open for criticism.
Yeah.
And everyone's a critic. It's the easiest job in the world.
Yeah, it's interesting. Do you think it's worse than other art forms, jewellery, in that way?
Only worse because I'm involved in it. It's the personal side of it.
That's right. But I think every artist has, that affects a lot of artists and how they feel.
Yeah, definitely. COVID for me was hard, I thought, in the time, but it was actually quite easy because I did quite a bit of making and felt good about the time that I could spend in there because we were all at home. The last 6 months have been probably the 6 hardest months of my creative journey.
Really? In what way?
The malaise has been deep.
Really?
Not a lot of really making come forward. I don't know why. I could probably scratch that surface quite deeply, and probably after that Zoom call, what we've just had, that Zoom meeting, it's a little bit clearer. We've got a few more deadlines. Perhaps we're all deadline driven.
So you're feeling overwhelmed or sort of under pressure?
I'm beginning to feel like I have pressure, whereas before it was like I was just floating around on some sort of like weird green pond.
But you sort of, sometimes when you have that space, it gives you clarity.
Yeah. As I say, I think pressure comes from a deadline, and it's good pressure. And probably on the back of COVID, there was a lot of deadlines that everyone for everything got crushed. And so sometimes you had nowhere to necessarily go. But it's coming back. As I say, we have got the Fingers annual group show. I've got a show down in Martinborough in a gallery, Schmidt Gallery. And we've been working with a group of New Zealand creatives and London-based people. So Handshake, a dialogue collective, coming together for something that probably won't happen, which is terrible, which is called Radiant Pavilion in Melbourne. And that's a biannual thing. So again, Zoom, we've been doing those meetings where we're trying to put something together as a collective group of people. The Radiant Pavilion is big, and it hasn't been going that long, but it's just got bigger and bigger, and it's mainly makers, jewellers. And to be part of that is really exciting.
That's really exciting. So, I hope it can go ahead.
Well, we're going to do some, that's it, problem solving, creative thinking.
Yeah.
So maybe not actual objects, but it could well be posters and stuff like that. And Melbourne is just, a city of sticking up a poster.
Yeah. Well, that sounds interesting. So, for people who don't know your work, Mandy, can you maybe sort of tell us about your philosophies around your use of materials, and then, the kind of materials that you use, and maybe take us through a bit of a process for one of your works?
Sure. I think I am a hoarder in many ways, or a scavenger. I see the value in things that every day are thrown away. So I spent a lot of time looking at rust and peeling paint, and I think there's an urbanness that comes from my Birmingham that I still haven't got rid of, even though I come to New Zealand, which is very frustrating because sometimes you can't find that 200-year-old building or something like that. Why make it hard for yourself? I use things that are readily available. Copper is the base of most of my metalwork because of how the enamel sits on the copper. So I have been known to go around to people who are just doing copper spouting and see if there's anything in their skips.
Great.
To do that side of things. And so the enamel, as I mentioned before, is this like single cream consistency, and how it is painted on gives that wear approach. I do sometimes try to be a little bit more graphic because I love graphic marks, but it doesn't really, it doesn't run easily. The enamel fires in a kiln at 800 degrees C. It can be fired as many times as you really like. Each time it changes slightly. People would often say my work is quite green, and that's perhaps because of the copper element coming through. Even though I've just done something, I found some really cool pink enamel because it has an industrial side of it. So the colours aren't as bright as conventional enamel. The pink looks actually really cool when you come out.
I'm liking the sound of this pink.
It's quite cool. I did draw a great deal, especially through Unitec, and that really helped me get stuff out of my brain. But also at the same time, it is because it's marked, that whole process. I do still draw, but not quite in the same way. But I draw to problem solve, and a lot of my work, because of the enamel, you can't necessarily solder back onto it. So if you're making a brooch, for example, you need to actually problem solve how the finding the mechanism or the structure of the brooch holds the piece of enamel in a way that doesn't ruin it, but at the same time works well on the body. So I don't enjoy soldering for a few reasons, but I've worked out a way of actually fusing my silver together. Part of it is because I think I actually get a bit of the shakes, and then there's this little tiny piece of bloody solder that goes running across, and that patience that I talked about. And then, so then becomes frustration, and it's never a nice. It's a bit like a perfect storm then. So fusing the silver together works quite well because you get a fluidness, a softness that gives compliments to the actual piece of work itself, rather than trying to make a really highly structured backing with something that's a bit like it's just been run over by a car. So
you work with silver, copper. Does every material you use have the enamel? Not necessarily.
No, not necessarily. It did. It's moving away. The concrete obviously doesn't. But sometimes I've actually embedded enamel into the concrete.
So how do you actually work with concrete to make jewellery? Big question.
Look at the blog. Concrete is actually quite light. You can do a lot with it. You can reinforce it if you wanted to, which is literally putting anything into it. You can mix it up with all kinds of things. You can hone it back if you want to.
Mix pigments.
Yeah, definitely. Considering it's actually one of the oldest materials. I mean, even the Romans used concrete in one way or another. I think you can make it look very pretty, or you can make it look very stark. It's sort of according to your own aesthetic. So,
and what other materials do you use? I mean, you use different types of metals too, don't you?
Well, the copper being the most, and then the silver. I did in COVID, in a bit of madness of exploring, started to cut down the plastic shampoo bottles and iron those down. Made some earrings out of those with a kind of when I need to make but not think, earrings are the way I go to. So sometimes I play about with different materials in there. But the material itself, you can do a lot with the material as long as you have the knowledge how to hold it, or how to make it into a piece of jewellery. And I can make jewellery that's quite big. I made a lot of bangles, and I enjoy doing those. Or you can make things that are very small.
Delicate.
Help.
So you make brooches and necklaces, sort of pendants, as well as quite full on necklace shapes, and the bangles, earrings. And I mean, I can see the sort of cohesiveness across your practice. I feel like you can kind of spot a Mandy Flood in a way. I mean, I guess it's your reuse of materials, or your use of materials, and how you work with them, especially with the enamel. But it'd be interesting to hear, if you maybe just choose one project, and how you started that, and what was your inspiration, and where did you get your ideas? Do you have your sort of final product in mind exactly, or are you quite experimental?
Generally quite experimental. I mean, there are certain things, like if you take the concrete, it will only do certain things. And the one thing that the concrete teaching me is the preparation to start with, because it's about what they call shuttering. The technical terms is the mould that you make, and it's the same in a house or any kind of construction. If that isn't right, the actual, when you pour it in to make your mould, it will collapse or it will fall apart or it will, so, and learning for it to cure. And a good day to do concrete is not necessarily a good day in Auckland, because if it's a bit too humid, thank you, a bit too moist and humid, it doesn't dry in the same way, and you can end up with a crack in it, and stuff like that needs to be thought about. So the last large project was at Nelson Jewellery Week, which was an inaugural one, the beginning of April this year, and that was celebrating 10 years of Handshake. And the premise for that was that we all made a chain and we joined to the next person. And the idea was that we spoke with the person to our left and our right to make a joint.
Wow, I love that.
It was brilliant.
That's a great concept.
It was very, very cool. And there was, it was a mission, I think about 40 makers, because of the 10 years that Handshake's been going.
Wow.
They were mainly Kiwis. I don't think there was any overseas. Anyway, mainly Kiwis. And like as all good jewellers, we started off having that conversation about how we're going to join. And then it was like, well, I'm going to do it my way anyway.
Yeah.
And the poor curator had to work it all out, because that was it. There was no really knowing what that person was going to do. I mean, we knew the length of them. So I wanted to work with concrete on that one. I wanted to do a simple link. But it had to have a reinforcement side of it to make that link go through. And I just wanted to put a bit of enamel into it as well. And it ended up being called ambivalence, because often with jewellers or makers, anyone, we can think too long. And when you think too long, you can actually go off the boil. But because of the way concrete is, and it's such a material that people have often, they are quite ambivalent towards it, or they completely hate it. I just thought, right, I'm just going to do it. I'm going to do it quickly. And the moulds that I used was toilet, the cardboard inside your toilet.
Yeah, toilet roll.
Thank you. And though that was the same for all of them, I think there was about 10 pieces, by the time I'd finished and touched it and just actually put the hands of the maker on it, each link was quite different. And I could have gone back to it and I could have started to work into it and I could have really, put more intensity to it. But no, the idea was that was it and it was there. And so and the range was wide. The range was really wide of people.
And how did you connect each piece?
The reinforcement of steel went through the concrete, and then I made a enamel spring. So it was a bright yellow, like an old-fashioned bed spring idea that hooked onto each one. So yeah, it's
amazing.
It's quite And at the end, though, to join onto a very, very delicate piece of work, the person to my left had this really, really, it was beautifully done, but very, very fine and very, very delicate. I made a tiny little earring that it does work. It sounds a bit bizarre in scale, but that was hers to keep. So it was my giving back to her at the end of that one.
How gorgeous. And what was on the other side?
A friend of mine, the other one's a friend of mine, it was wooden that had been whittled.
I love that idea. And did it look beautiful?
Oh, sorry.
As a final piece?
The whole thing, the whole installation, yeah, it was great.
How did they hang it?
With a little bit of fishing wire.
Hanging, so all hanging, the whole thing.
Yeah, and that was it. That was very much the idea of keeping it off the ground as you could do for anything. And then the material variety was huge, from takeaway plastic containers to wood to kelp. One of the artists did some work out of kelp.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sounds incredible. I love the sound of that collective. And is that going to go forward? Are you going to continue with Handshake?
Well, I probably won't in that mentorship way. no, I've done that sort of thing. And there is another Handshake 6 going on at the moment, and they will be coming to the end probably next year. You say lost dates. Creative New Zealand has a lot to do with it. Peter Deckers has absolutely, and Hilda have everything to do with it. And they are, they're running on not quite empty, but the support isn't 100% there in many ways now because of not having the institutions.
Yeah.
It might be a finite model, but then again, you just reinvent it, and that is what Peter and Hilda are excellent at. They will always look at a solution.
Yeah. Sounds incredible. I hope, hopefully other funders will come forward at some point.
Well, Nelson Jewellery Week was the first, and it was spectacularly successful. So hopefully, and it's good for it to be out of a major centre. It was great to go to Nelson. It's been many years since I've been to Nelson.
Yeah, it was a great city.
It was great. It was alive. It was really good, and there was it was a bit like Edinburgh Fringe. There was things going on all over the place. The sun was shining. It was great.
It's a great place. So concrete and enamel and silver and copper and sort of found materials. Are there any materials you haven't tried that you would like to experiment with?
Crikey. I think the more I'm getting in towards mould making, I enjoy that process, a bit of the positives and negatives. And sometimes we can't get everything over here, but it gives you that opportunity to look for another solution. I am conscious of using materials that don't have nasty side effects, so like the resins aren't that good really, so as much as you can get some really cool effects, it's probably not good for the old health. But then again, breathing in enamel's not too good for you either, so
it's a tricky one, isn't it?
Yeah. And as I said right at the beginning, textiles or fashion was my first creative foray. And I do miss not sewing as much as I used to. And so some part of me would perhaps start thinking about going down that avenue.
Have you made jewellery out of fabric very much?
Oh, as a kid probably, that whole idea of finger knitting or, brooches. You used to cut things out and stuff like that.
It feels like a path you could go down quite easily. And are you interested in textile design and that kind of thing as well?
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting how the apples fall from trees. Youngest, that's her strength. She's doing some great material technology and looking at stuff.
Great.
And I every time that happens, I start thinking, all right, get the sewing machine out, sort of start pattern cutting again. But again, I was, you're meant to put something on the bias and I'd put it on the other direction just to see what happens.
Yeah, but that's great. Your contrary self.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's, I think, a big part of your practice. You're sort of pushing the boundaries a bit and trying new things that we haven't really seen before.
Yeah.
And from a business point of view, I know that you don't actually have a website and don't sell your work through that platform. So how do you actually run your jewellery work as a business?
Yeah, as the accountant. No. Very fortunate to be at Fingers, which gives you the opportunity to do work that can be seen as a little bit more mainstream, but with the annual show coming up, you can always do something that's a little bit pushing the boundary. I am in a couple of other galleries, one down in New Plymouth, one in Martinborough.
And what are those galleries called,
So
Mandy?
the Jewel and the Jeweller is in New Plymouth, Schmidt Gallery is in Martinborough, and then Kura Gallery is in Taupo. And the Jewel and the Jeweller is a great situation as well, because it's also a making. They have a studio as well. And Sam and Jen have set that up themselves, but they also sell, and they're bringing contemporary jewellery to New Plymouth.
Great.
So that's good.
Yeah.
No, I haven't got a website, and that was probably a conscious decision. I'm sorry. To to realise that I like to be able to touch work myself, and I think it's good that people can actually touch the work themselves. Also, the website, I'm not techno, so it's hard to do. I'd use Instagram as a platform to show the work. The Mandy Flood 2020 shows very much that contemporary jewellery.
Yeah, and the link for that is on your blog.
Absolutely. I have my other Instagram that's a bit like the visual diary that I do. That shows how my work can often evolve.
And is that showing the process as well, or no?
No, not really. That was a bit like the family album. There's always a picture in there that you wish you hadn't put in there, but it's there now anyway. So, and yeah.
And do you sell through Instagram very much?
No, I'm thinking about it. But no, that's a different thing to go down at the moment. Probably because part of me wants to perhaps move into sort of bigger things. Martinborough Schmidt Gallery has got a show coming up in end of July, and on the Mandy Flood, terrible plug here, Mandy Flood 2020, there's an image of a candle stick holder thing, object, which is part of what's going to be the show down there. So that's object.
So are you looking at moving away from jewellery or having something on the side with more object focus?
Just together. Jewellery often is an object. It just has the ability to be worn. I think three-dimensionally. So sometimes the size is where it changes from being easily worn or not easily worn. Not obviously, but these candlesticks can't really be worn. But saying that, when you see the shapes of them, you could probably put your wrist into it and it could well be a bangle.
Sounds interesting.
So that's literally the last thing that's been coming out of the kiln. And that's something that, with a conversation with the gallerist, with Sandra, about how she wants to push her own gallery, which is a big thing, to have somebody working with you to promote you as much as they're promoting themselves.
And having galleries in different regions around New Zealand must be good.
Yeah. But every time you approach a gallery, it's like putting your big girl undies on.
Yeah.
It's scary.
It is. And how have you actually made contact with those people?
Handshake, believe it or not. Sandra and Jen were in my Handshake, and they've set up on their own to do their work. And so, as much as they're supporting me, I'm supporting them. We're supporting each other.
Which is good. Yeah. And that's sort of continuing the philosophy of Handshake.
Yeah. And it's a jewellery community.
Yeah.
The jewellery community in New Zealand is very inclusive. It's a great supportive network. And I think that's probably how I have done what I've done at the age, because, we're on a not that young thing, because people are real and they understand things, and there's no tall poppy syndrome, I don't think.
That's good.
Yeah, it's wonderful. I mean, there are times that we all have a little bit of a bitch and a moan, but bottom line is it's a great, supportive, inclusive network of individuals.
That's so good, and it's just such a shame that the actual sort of grassroots training is falling to the wayside.
Absolutely. Dunedin Polytechnic is the only one that's running a contemporary jewellery programme.
Isn't that crazy?
Yeah, it is.
So sad. So, it's just thinking, you have so many ideas and you seem to sort of head down such an experimental path sometimes and come up with such amazing, beautiful work. What inspires you, or who inspires you to make this kind of stuff?
Wow. That's probably the toughest thing that you've asked me today. Inspiration often comes from the urban environment, definitely. There are a few heroes of people that I could say I love their work and stuff like that, but we all have a hero. And I think one, and nothing to do with my work actually, is somebody called Barbara Hepworth. Her work, amazing. And I was fortunate enough to get to St Ives 5 years ago. I had to come all the way over from New Zealand to get to something that was basically in my back door. but her work and the way as a woman she worked in the 50s, 60s, 70s, was quite focused, and I love her work. I can't do it. And sometimes the inspiration comes from work that is so left of your own practice that it's an approach that you take, not necessarily what you're going to get from it. You don't copy, but how she worked and approached materials is something that, I only can emulate.
That's great. It's a pretty phenomenal woman to be inspired by.
Yeah. And that's the Hepworth Gallery up north opened 10 years ago.
Oh, wow.
I've got to get to that one.
Really? I hadn't heard of that.
No, I mean, I was in England 5 years ago and I didn't even hear about it then.
Wow.
So I went down to St Ives. But yeah, that's
when we can travel again.
That's it, when that jab is in my arm.
Yeah. And what do you love most about what you do?
The ability that I can do it. Yeah. And coming to an age where I can actually say I do it and I'm proud of myself, because I am not very good at doing that, and I think few of us are in many ways. It teaches me things when I listen.
When you're ready for the learning.
Yeah. And meeting great people, and catching up with you, Mandy. If I didn't do what I did, I wouldn't have caught up with you today.
I should have been making this podcast years ago. Not that we need an excuse. That's interesting. And, you've talked a little bit about where you might be heading with your art practice in the future, but what can you see is out there for you in the future?
Oh, yeah, I try not to crystal ball too often. I think if you don't sabotage yourself, which we're very good at doing, you can reach for the stars, whatever those stars are, and you can get them. And being happy with that journey rather than giving yourself a hard time every day, I would like to think that we have got more time in New Zealand to come together and to actually say how good we are as a country and not always look to Europe for the answers, because we have got some amazing makers and creative people here, and we just need to really celebrate it. And sometimes celebrate it in the smaller places, like Nelson, like New Plymouth, rather than always looking to Wellington or Auckland.
But I do think that's changing, and that sort of appreciation for, the art that is being made here, and also the sort of valuing crafting practices as well, or letting crafting come in with art making is, almost the same thing now, which I think is great.
Yeah. And I think, I'm going to say this, what you've done or doing with the creative matters is really, really important for people to value it right from the word go, because often schools don't value what happens there enough, and getting kids to do things in their off time makes it really, really important for them, and therefore they take it with them throughout the rest of their journey. So, all credit to what you've been doing and the podcast. So it's, a pleasure and a privilege.
Thank you. That's kind of you to say. And I think a lot of us makers value the creative process, and, how much that is a part of our practice. And, it's just teaching the rest of the world to place emphasis on that, I think, and give children and adults opportunities. Yeah. Well, Mandy, we need to wrap up. Mandy and Mandy are just about to sign out. It's been so nice to have you here, and you've had such a rich journey, and you have been inspirational to me, the way you've just taken the bull by the horns, and even though you may not see it like that yourself, I think you've kind of moved out of teaching and started your own practice, and then had these amazing opportunities that you've made happen, and you're very proactive in your practice, and I'm very excited because I've ordered 3 of your silver rings that you've got on your finger, And I can't wait to own a genuine Mandy Flood.
Oh, thank you very much, Mandy. And it's just lovely, lovely to be with you again. So carry on doing what you're doing.
And you too. Thanks, Mandy.
Thanks, Mandy.